She's all about her career, saving everyone else's kids because she can't have her own. My brother mocked me loudly at a family celebration. The room froze. Tears filled my eyes. That's when I revealed the secret I'd buried for years, the daughter he had hidden from our parents. I'm Adriana, a 33-year-old registered nurse in Boston, where I spend my days saving lives in a chaotic emergency ward at Mass General. It's not the glamorous life people imagine. No TV drama heroics, just endless double shifts, impossible decisions, and the weight of knowing every call you make could change someone's life forever. I got here because I've always loved to take care of people. Growing up in our parents' cozy brownstone in Beacon Hill, I was the straight-A daughter. The one who volunteered at the senior center without being asked. The one who dreamed of nursing school while Damien, my brother, dreamed of get-rich-quick schemes and a fast life. He was the spark, the golden child who could talk his way out of trouble with a grin while I got lectures for forgetting to take out the trash. Damien's your younger brother. Allow him, my mom would say, brushing off his latest disaster. You're so dependable, Adriana, my dad would add, as if that was supposed to make up for the double standard. I was raised to take all the responsibilities, while Damien was pampered and spoiled. I didn't mind. Not really. I loved Damien, even when his chaos left me cleaning up the mess. When I left for college, I worked night shifts at a diner to cover tuition while our parents covered Damien's expenses. I pushed through nursing school, graduated near the top, and landed a position at one of the best hospitals in Boston. But family gatherings were still about Damien's latest venture, his startup that folded in 3 months, his band that never played a gig, or the money he borrowed and never repaid. I became a nurse because I couldn't stand to watch children suffer in silence. The incident that convinced me was when a childhood friend was seriously injured and I accompanied her to the hospital. Seeing the nurses care for her with patience and compassion, I realized I wanted to be that person for someone in need, to give hope, safety, and care when no one else could. But Damien thought my career was worthless. Proof I couldn't handle real life. He also had a habit of mocking me. So you're a professional Band-Aid applier now. He'd joke at Thanksgiving, his friends laughing. I hardly took any offense at his words because I loved him so much. He had a secret, one he had begged me to keep from our parents. A secret that eventually cost me my ability to have a child. That was why I grew angry and revealed the secret to the family mocked me for being single and childless at a celebration dinner our parents had organized for him. Bet you love telling people how to live healthy while you're single and childless. Damien had finally landed a big promotion at a tech firm, and my parents were over the moon. I arrived early, partly to help, partly to brace myself for Damien's inevitable jabs. Adriana, you didn't have to come so early, my mom said, adjusting the flower arrangement. But since you're here, can you check if we have enough wine? Damien wants everything perfect. Of course he did. Perfection was always Damien's stage, and I was just the stagehand. By the time guests arrived, our aunts, uncles, cousins, and a few of Damien's colleagues, the house buzzed with chatter. I sipped sparkling water in a corner, talking to my cousin Elena, when Damien swept in with his girlfriend Natasha, both dressed like they'd stepped out of a magazine. He was beaming, soaking up the attention like oxygen. Then Damien spotted me. There's Adriana, my big sister, always watching from the sidelines, he called, pulling Natasha toward me. His tone was light, but his eyes held that familiar glint. I forced a smile. Congrats, Damien. You must be excited about the new role. He drank from his champagne and kissed Natasha on the cheek. No guy with you? He asked with a mocking smile. As always. The lonely cat. My head shrank. My cheeks burned, but I swallowed the hurt. This wasn't his first. He always mocked me. Damien, my mom said softly. A warning he ignored. Oh, relax, Mum. I'm just teasing. Adriana knows I don't mean it, right? Before I could answer, my dad ushered us to the table. Naturally, Damien had seated me right across from him and Natasha, a front-row ticket to his spotlight. As the meal progressed, Damien's barbs grew sharper. Over the appetizers, he leaned in. "So, Adriana, save any lives today? Or just follow doctor's orders like a good little assistant?" My dad frowned. "Damien, that's disrespectful to nurses." He played innocent. "What? I'm just curious about her work. She gets to decide who gets care and who waits. Big responsibility for someone who's never had to take care of a family." The table went quiet. Even Damien seemed to sense he'd gone too far, but he didn't back down. I met his gaze, my voice steady. "I don't decide who gets care. I give care to whoever needs it, based on medical urgency and what keeps people alive." My mom jumped in. "Damien, tell us about your new project at work." Damien pivoted to brag about his promotion, but his eyes kept flicking to me, waiting for a reaction. By the main course, he was back at it. "Adriana, ever try those dating apps? My coworker met his wife online. They're super easy, even for, people who work crazy hours." I kept my voice even. "I've tried them, Damien." He pressed, his tone syrupy. "No luck? You'd better hurry. Clock's ticking if you want kids." My fork froze. He knew. He knew what I'd sacrificed. And still he wielded it like a weapon. My parents stayed silent as always. My cousin Elena, who had been quiet all through the exchange, tried to intervene. "Maybe Adriana's focused on her career right now." Damien smirked. "Oh, she's all about her career. A real independent woman, saving everyone else's kids because she can't have her own." The silence that followed was deafening. Elena gasped. My aunt covered her mouth. A tear dropped from my eyes. I wiped it with the back of my left hand. After all I had done for Damien. "You know the truth about what happened 5 years ago, Damien," I replied him, my voice cutting through the silence. "You know why I can't have kids." My father's face folded in confusion. "What are you talking about, Adriana?" he asked, almost rising to his feet. "What happened 5 years ago, Adriana?" Damien paled. "Adriana, don't do this," he begged. By this time, everyone's eyes were on me, steady, waiting for me to speak. My heart pounded. 5 years ago, I'd made a choice to protect Damien. A choice that cost me everything. Now, with every eye on me, I had to decide again. Stay silent or let the truth burn through our family like wildfire. As I opened my mouth to speak, Damien cut in. "Adriana, please." There was panic in his voice. "Adriana, if there is something we need to know, tell us." I looked around the room at all the faces staring me down, waiting. My hands trembled, but something inside me snapped. I was done shielding Damien. 5 years ago, I began, my voice steadier than I felt. I got a call from my neighbor, Mrs. Good. She was worried about a little girl in Damien's building. I told them everything. The apartment in Roxbury with its peeling paint and broken locks. Damien hardly ever around. The little girl, Lila, 3 years old, hungry and frightened. The adults in the apartment too intoxicated to care. Lila was Damien's daughter. My mom's hand flew to her mouth. "A granddaughter, and you never told us?" My dad's face was stone, his eyes on Damien. I described taking Lila to the hospital, the malnutrition. I told them how I became her temporary guardian, how I loved her like my own. I told them about the choice I made, the sacrifice. How caring for Lila meant cutting my hours, passing up promotions, ending a relationship with someone who wanted a partner, not a sudden parent. How the stress triggered health issues that required surgery, complications that meant I might never carry my own child. My voice broke as I admitted I'd lost touch with normal life, believing I was doing what was right, only to have Damien show up last year, cleaned up and promising to be a father, taking Lila away. And how I'd learned from Mrs. Good that Damien had left Lila again, this time with a girlfriend who couldn't care less. Natasha, hearing that Damien had another girlfriend and a child he had hidden from her, stood up in tears. "You had a child and never told me? You are evil," She cursed and walked out on us. My dad stood up in rage. Is this true? Damien's voice was defensive. It's not like that. I was going through stuff, okay? I got my act together. I tried, but the situation was complicated. Lila's mom left, and I was figuring things out. Elena cut him off. You left a 3-year-old in an unsafe apartment while you partied. Adriana saved her, and you took her back without a plan. Where is she now, Damien? He stayed quiet. The room erupted. My aunt suggested guests leave, and soon it was just us. Me, Damien, my parents. Damien turned on me. You had no right to bring this up. This was our secret. I didn't flinch. My mom was crying. Damien, how could you keep a child from us? My dad's voice shook. You put your own daughter in danger. Twice. Damien's tears were angry. You're all against me. Adriana's always been jealous, trying to make me look bad. I stood, my voice cold. Jealous? I protected you, Damien. I kept your secret, let you mock me even when you knew what I lost because of you. My dad tried to intervene. Adriana, let's talk about this calmly. I laughed, bitter. Of course. Let's keep pretending everything's fine. That's what we do, right? Protect Damien no matter who he hurts. My mom's voice was faint. What do you want from us? I looked at them, my family who'd always chosen Damien's charm over my pain. I want Lila to have the life she deserves. And I'm done pretending. I left that night, my heart raw but resolute. The next morning, my mom called, her voice tight. You humiliated Damien. Why drag up the past? I couldn't believe it. He abandoned his daughter, Mom, and you're blaming me? She sighed. He's trying, Adriana. He's doing better now. Why ruin that? I gripped the phone. I didn't ruin anything. Damien did. I'm done covering for him. I'm going to fight for Lila. I hung up, my hands shaking, but my path clear. I was going to protect Lila, no matter what it cost me with my family. The courtroom in Suffolk County felt both familiar and alien as I sat at the petitioner's table, my lawyer beside me. I'd seen court proceedings before, accompanying patients through custody hearings, but now I was the one fighting. Lila's future hung in the balance, and I felt every second of it in my bones. Henry, my colleague, sat behind me, his presence a quiet anchor, while my parents sat behind Damien, their choice clear. Damien's lawyer, Richard Kemper, was polished and aggressive, his expensive suit screaming confidence. My attorney, Sarah Porch, was sharp and methodical, a colleague sister who knew this meant everything to me. The hearing began, and Sarah laid out my case, my time as Lila's guardian, my stable home, my bond with her. Mrs. Good testified about finding Lila, how worried she'd been, how Adriana had stepped in when no one else would. Dr. Patel, Lila's pediatrician, testified about Lila's growth during my care, how she'd gained weight, started sleeping through the night, began speaking in full sentences. Lila thrived under Adriana's care, Dr. Patel said. That kind of recovery doesn't happen by accident. Richard tried to twist it, suggesting I'd overstepped boundaries, but Dr. Patel held firm. Adriana acted appropriately given the circumstances. She potentially saved that child's life. When I testified, I spoke from the heart, my voice cracking as I described finding Lila, caring for her, loving her, losing her, and now fighting for her. Judge Power's question was direct. Why didn't you pursue custody initially? I swallowed. I believed Damien when he said he'd changed. I wanted to believe my brother could be the father Lila needed. By the time I learned he hadn't changed, he'd moved and cut off contact. I thought she was safe until Mrs. Good reached out again and told me the truth. Damien's testimony was a performance, tears, apologies, promises to do better. But under Judge Power's sharp questions, his story fell apart. You left your daughter multiple times. What's changed now? Damien stammered. I'm in a better place. I have a stable job, a stable relationship. "Where is Lila now?" the judge asked. Damien hesitated. "With a friend. Temporarily." The final blow came from Lila's therapist, Dr. Rachel Foster. "Lila's making progress because she remembers Adriana as a safe person," she said. "Children who experience this kind of trauma need consistency above all else." Another disruption could set her back significantly. As we broke for recess, I saw Damien arguing with Richard, his composure gone. My parents avoided my eyes, their silence louder than words. That night, Damien called, begging me to meet. Against my better judgment, I agreed, meeting him at a coffee shop near my apartment. He looked tired, his usual swagger gone. "Drop the case," he pleaded. "We can figure this out as a family. I'll include you in her life." I stared, incredulous. "Include me?" "Damien, she needs stability, not your empty promises." His eyes flashed. "If you do this, you'll lose Mom and Dad. You'll be alone, stuck raising a kid who isn't even yours." I stood unshaken. "She is mine. In every way that matters. And I'm not alone. I have people who actually care about doing what's right." As I walked away, I felt free, no longer bound by Damien's manipulation or my parents' misplaced loyalty. The next morning, the courtroom was silent as Judge Power delivered her ruling. "This court's priority is Lila's best interest," she began. "Adriana Morgan has demonstrated unwavering commitment to this child's welfare, while Damien Morgan has repeatedly failed to provide stable care." My heart pounded as she continued. "I grant full custody to Adriana Morgan, effective immediately. Damien Morgan will have supervised visitation with a review in 6 months if he demonstrates sustained responsibility." Damien looked stunned, but the judge wasn't done. "Furthermore, Mr. Morgan will contribute child support to ensure Lila's needs are met." Damien stormed out, Richard trailing behind. My parents hesitated, then approached. "We hope this works out," my dad said stiffly. My mom's eyes were wet. "We'd like to know our granddaughter, if that's allowed." I nodded. "She'd love that. She needs grandparents who care." It wasn't peace, but it was a start. Lila moved in that weekend, her small backpack barely filling the room I'd painted lavender for her. "This is mine?" she asked, touching the stuffed animals I'd lined up on her bed. "All yours," I said. "Forever." Her smile was cautious but real. The months that followed were hard. Lila's nightmares, her fear I'd disappear, her tantrums when routines shifted. I studied trauma-informed parenting, leaned on Dr. Foster, and learned patience I didn't know I had. One night after a nightmare, Lila crawled into my lap. "Are you my mom now?" she whispered. "If you want me to be," I said, my heart full. "I do," she said. And the word mom became ours. Damien faded from our lives, his visits sporadic and eventually non-existent. My parents grew closer to Lila, bringing her books and taking her to the park, though our own relationship remained strained. Henry stayed a friend, helping with Lila's room and cheering us on. One evening, Lila handed me a drawing. 2 figures holding hands under a sun, one in scrubs, labeled "My Mom the Hero." I hugged her tight, tears falling. "I love you, kiddo." "I love you too, Mom," she said. This journey from that brutal dinner to this moment wasn't what I planned, but it's ours. Built on love, not obligation. To everyone who stayed with me through this story, thank you. If it moved you, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about finding strength in the hardest choices. Share your own moments of standing up for what's right in the comments. I'd love to hear them.